At 78, Barry Gibb finally tells the truth about Paul McCartney. Barry Gibb was born Barry Allen Crompton Gibb on September 1st, 1946 in Douglas, Isle of Man. His parents, Hugh and Barbara Gibb, recognized his early talent, encouraging him and his younger brothers Robin and Maurice to explore music from an early age. This early environment encouraged a precocious career that would last over 6 decades and encompass many genres from pop and rock to disco and R&B. Barry's path began modestly when the Gibb family moved from the Isle of Man to Manchester, England, and eventually to Brisbane, Australia. It was there that Barry and his brothers created the Bee Gees, a moniker that would come to be associated with chart-topper domination, unique harmonies, and cultural significance. In the mid-1960s, Barry's songwriting and frontmanship propelled the group from a highly touted Australian band to worldwide phenomena. Already established in pop history by the late 60s and early 70s with their soulful ballads, such as To Love Somebody in Massachusetts, their lyrical storytelling and melodic sensibilities, Barry's talents had already spoken for themselves. The 1970s, though, were the watershed years for Barry Gibb's life and legacy. Under his artistic vision guiding the group, the Bee Gees transformed themselves to suit the changing soundscape of the disco era. Their work on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, such as Staying Alive, Night Fever, and How Deep Is Your Love, not only topped charts globally, but were also cultural references that came to define an entire generation. Barry's falsetto singing voice became instantly iconic, a trademark sound that inspired countless musicians and defied the conventions of popular music. The Bee Gees' Saturday Night Fever work netted them Grammy Awards, multi-platinum sales, and a place in music history forever, solidifying Barry's status as both a performer and a prolific songwriter. Aside from his efforts with the Bee Gees, Barry's songwriting talent was dispersed among other performers. He penned or co-wrote hits for a diverse array of performers from Barbra Streisand, Woman in Love, to Diana Ross, Chain Reaction, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream, and Celine Dion, Immortality. His ability to craft timeless melodies paired with heartfelt and relatable lyrics speaks to his deep understanding of human emotion and musicality. Barry has penned or co-penned more than 1,000 songs, one of the most accomplished and revered songwriters in history. But Barry Gibb's tale is also one of adversity, perseverance, and commitment, as well as one of sheer hit-making success. The Bee Gees faced personal and professional challenges, such as shifting musical tastes, media criticism during the disco demolition days, and the tragic deaths of Barry's brothers, Andy in 1988, Maurice in 2003, and Robin in 2012. Each death was a searing personal loss for Barry. Nevertheless, he went on to keep their memory alive through his music, advancing the Bee Gees' legacy with dignity and humility. His solo efforts, including the 2016 album In the Now, demonstrate both his ongoing love of songcraft and emotional heft as an artist who has experienced love, loss, and rebirth. Throughout the years, Barry Gibb has been awarded a multitude of accolades and honors, from being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, to being knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 2018 for his charitable and musical services. These awards, as distinguished as they were, merely brushed the surface of the legacy he had left in the music world and on the fans everywhere. In tribute, the life of Barry Gibb is a testament to the transcendent power of music to bond hearts across generations and cultures. His music has provided the soundtrack to innumerable love affairs, celebrations, and quiet moments of contemplation. Whether via the contagious vitality of You Should Be Dancing, the soulful closeness of Words, or the melancholy loveliness of Too Much Heaven, Barry has provided the world with music that bypasses time and genre. His legacy is not so much in the records broken or awards achieved, but in the emotional footprint he has left on millions. Barry Gibb's own life has been characterized by early romantic starts and a long-time committed marriage. His first marriage was when he was still a teenager, only 19 years old. On August 22, 1966, when the Bee Gees' early popularity was peaking in the United Kingdom, he wedded Maureen Bates, a young lady who came from his peer group during those times. This marriage, though, was short-lived. Though they eventually shared a home together, their marriage was short-lived. The stresses of Gibb's rising music career, with constant touring, recording, and media scrutiny, perhaps put pressure on the relationship. Only a short time after cohabiting together, the couple broke up, and the marriage finally ended in divorce in July 1970, less than 4 years following their wedding. This brief first chapter in Gibb's personal life was closed in relative quietude, clearing the way for a much more lasting relationship that would shortly ensue. At the same time, Barry Gibb's popularity was on the rise, and his activity regularly brought him into contact with celebrities and celebrities. Taping an episode of the BBC's classic music show Top of the Pops in London, one of Britain's most respected pop music presentations of the time, Gibb ended up encountering a woman who would alter his life forever, Linda Gray. Gray, a beautiful and poised woman, had won the title of Miss Edinburgh, and that had brought her a certain status in British society. Their initial encounter was one of those happenstance meetings, which is almost as if from a movie, set amidst an environment filled with music, light, and the vibrancy of the pop culture of the late 1960s. Their love grew rapidly, and within a few months, they decided to get married. On September 1st, 1970, a day that was particularly significant since it was also Barry Gibb's 24th birthday, the two wed. This union would be one of the longest lasting in the entertainment industry and serve as a testament to their shared values, mutual respect, and strong emotional connection. Through the years, Barry and Linda developed a good family life together and raised 5 children: Stephen, Ashley, Travis, Michael, and Alexandra. Their firstborn son, Stephen Thaddeus Crompton Gibb, born in 1973, would become just like his father and develop into a musician. The family continued to grow as their own children matured and started families of their own, and Gibb has boasted of his status as grandfather to 7 grandchildren, a position he cherishes next to his own legendary accomplishments. While the Gibbs retained their British heritage, their careers and lives eventually became increasingly based in the United States, especially Miami, Florida, where Barry built a home and recording hub. In 2009, after having lived and worked in America for decades, Barry and Linda Gibb took the bold step to become naturalized United States citizens. Significantly, they also maintained their UK citizenship, reflecting the continuing relationship they had with their British past, even as they wholeheartedly adopted their new home. In a frank and extremely personal interview with The Mirror on July 11, 2014, Barry Gibb gave an intimate insight into a strange and improbable friendship he had developed with pop music legend Michael Jackson. Gibb remembered how Jackson, at the peak of his stardom, but frequently looking for escape from the crushing strain of public existence, would occasionally fly into Miami and reside at Gibb's family residence. Rather than living in the public eye, Jackson found comfort in the domestic setting of Barry's house, where the atmosphere was far removed from the chaos of screaming fans and relentless paparazzi. Gibb went on to depict Jackson's offbeat humor, telling how the singer would sit with him in the kitchen and listen to the TV show news coverage of the groupies outside Jackson's hotel on television, laughing to himself and mimicking his distinctive he vocal signature. The visits were not social only, but also extremely creative. At one stage, Jackson even resided upstairs in Gibb's home for several months, just prior to the beginning of his high-profile child abuse trial, though the seriousness of Jackson's legal issue potentially could have hung over conversation. Gibb said that they never discussed the case, rather keeping their time together controversy-free and centered on what they both enjoyed most: music. They would sit for hours sitting around spouting out musical ideas, penning songs, and then having a drink or two. Gibb remembers laughing that Michael, although publicly projecting the squeaky clean image, liked wine, and there were a few nights when the king of pop would just pass out on the floor, his guard down in the comfort of his buddy's house. Looking back at those times, Gibb spoke of sadness at Jackson's absence from his life, stating that he misses him and treasures the memories of those quiet, unfiltered moments spent together. Aside from these deeply intimate relationships, the life of Barry Gibb has also been characterized by the places that he has made his home. Though he has a residence in the United Kingdom, his main home has been the United States since 1974 when the Bee Gees moved their operations based to Miami in order to be enveloped in the booming U.S. music scene. Gibb's lifelong affection for the U.S. was on display when in January 2006 he bought the historic Hendersonville, Tennessee, residence of the late country music icons Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash. For Gibb, this was not simply a property purchase. This was a chance to keep alive and honor the memory of two musicians whom he respected enormously. His dream was to bring the property back to its former state and turn it into a songwriting retreat, a place of creativity where artists could come together, think, and derive inspiration from the history present in the walls. Sadly, the venture never materialized in the way it was meant to. On April 10, 2007, during renovation, the house was utterly lost to a fire that ravaged the building, leaving nothing but ash where once there had stood a landmark of musical history. Though in loss, a new house ultimately came onto the site, existing both as a testament to the first property and an icon of perseverance. Gibb went on to continue living in the house for a few more years before finally selling the house in 2014, closing the door on his personal and professional journey that had been full of inspiration and heartache. At the age of 78, the last surviving member of the iconic Bee Gees, Sir Barry Gibb, has come to a stage in life and career where reminiscence comes as easily as breathing. Years of musical success, personal turmoil, and the inexorable passage of time have lent him a viewpoint that is both grizzled and uncompromising. For decades, journalists and fans alike have speculated as to the character of his relationship with Sir Paul McCartney, another behemoth of the music world and one of the most powerful figures in popular culture. The two giants of their own stature have, on rare occasions, bumped into each other in public at award ceremonies, charity functions, or mutual recording studios. But Gibb has seldom publicly spoken about McCartney at length. When he did, what he said was normally short, courteous, and couched in the diplomatic nicety of moving among the upper reaches of the entertainment industry. Now, in this latter chapter of his life, Gibb is no longer so under the compulsion to defend every opinion or to keep the glossed-over PR-sanctioned versions of anecdotes. In a recent interview, his manner had the warmth of fond recollection, but also the seriousness of honesty, the sort that comes only from decades of actual experience. He defined McCartney not only as among the greatest songwriters ever, but as an artist whose innovative vision and tireless work ethic created a standard that even fellow legends found daunting. Gibb acknowledged that during the early days of the Beatles, the Beatles and McCartney specifically were both an inspiration and a sort of intimidating benchmark. "We were attempting to make our own kind of mark," Gibb said, "but the Beatles were out there rewriting the rules of music every few months. You couldn't help it. You could only stare in amazement.